Today's podcast episode is we're going to be talking about what does it actually mean to be a man today, in today's generation, in today's age, in today's standards, right? So we have a lot of conflicting explanations as what a provider means, what is a strong, emotionally aware man is supposed to look like, is supposed to be, is supposed to dress, on some occasions. So we also have the pressure versus identity situation come about, meaning um, the pressure to become this provider, the pressure to become this strong, emotionally aware man. So we don't know what it is. What does it mean in this generation, in this day? So what we got to do is that we got to redefine it because we are stuck in our old ways. So we're trying to have that old way mentality in a new way, in a new generation, in a new updated version. So it's like saying, okay, you haven't updated your phone and you're still going to have those old problems. You're still going to have those old issues. So therefore, you bring that upon you transition that into, the what does it mean to be a man in today's, day and age? We don't know. We're just stuck in our old values. We go back to our default settings, which, it shouldn't be in this case because at the end of the day, you have to, know what a man is in today's standards, in today's age, and also what does it mean to be strong and emotionally aware of your surroundings, emotionally aware of yourself, and all of that. So the next talking point is: are men defining themselves or inheriting outdated roles? So that's what we got to do in that aspect. So we're gonna we're gonna go back to what a provider is. Okay, we're gonna define what a provider is in today's day and age, and what a provider in today's day and age, in my opinion, is basically what the couple, what the other partner is agreeing upon. What you guys both come to an agreement, because you can have, oh, a provider is someone that's gonna take care of me. Yes, that's true at the same time, but you got to understand you're going to have to sacrifice as a partner time and emotion. And if your partner's okay with that, then okay. But at the same time, you're going to have to sacrifice as well. So what that's going to be is whatever it is. So if you want to go back to those traditional roles, then by default, you're going to have to do what a traditional role is by a woman and a man. Like, meaning in a woman, you got to cook, you got to clean, you got to take care of the house. You can't complain in the sense of like, oh, he's not there for me, or oh, he's not, he doesn't want to talk to me after his, long day at work. Why? Because he had a long day at work. He doesn't want to come home and, talk or do anything like that because he's tired. He just wants to rest. He wants to relax. He wants to mentally de-stress because work put him through a lot of shit. Work put him through, mentally a lot, emotionally a lot. So he doesn't want to put all that on you guys, on your partner, whatever it is. So we got to redefine what the provider is, and we got to come to an understanding and do and stand on that. We can't just be redefining it. We can't just be backtracking. We can't just be like, oh, well, I thought it was going to be like this. It's like, no, you got to be like, okay, this is how it's going to be. Let's see how it works out. Let's see how it goes. And if we don't like it, then we got to talk about it. Communication is key. But not only communication is key, I like to say effective communication is key. The reason being is because if you communicate, yes, you can communicate your point across, but does that other person understand? Does that other person understand what you meant? Yes or no? That's what you got to ask yourself. And if that other person doesn't, then that's where you got to really, really dive deep. Okay, this is what I meant when I said this, or this is what I meant about that situation, or this is what I meant about this topic. Why? Because then there's going to be a misunderstanding, and then there's going to be that miscommunication. Oh, well, I thought this, or well, I assumed that. It's like, no, this is what I meant. So everyone has a different definition of everything. So that's where you as a partner, you as a couple, have to come to an agreement and have to come to an understanding. Okay, this is what I meant. this is what I mean. This is how I want this relationship to go. This is how I want us to be in this relationship. And if anything, happens to fall through the cracks, that's fine. Just make sure you communicate your emotions to me. Make sure you communicate, what you're feeling. Make sure you communicate, what it is you want from me and vice versa. Because if not, then it's just going to be an assumption relationship. It's just going to be an assumption in everything. And it's going to transition into being emotionally aware. One of the partners is going to be emotionally aware while the other one is not. The other one's just going to be like, oh, I feel this, I feel that, but they're going to be like, no, maybe not. Not going to act on it, or they're not going to talk about it, just because you already know how your partner is. You already know, oh, he had a long day or she had a long day, or vice versa. You guys got to come to an agreement and say, hey, you know what? I'm not feeling, a certain way in this relationship. Let's talk about it. Not today, but let's set a date. Right. So it goes on to the next bullet point about the pressure versus identity. A lot of the pressure goes on the provider because that's what it was back then. That's what it was in our parents, generation, because you were able to do that. It was able to, happen. You were able to work one job, whether it was, at a fast food restaurant, or it could have been, at a store, being a manager, or even your career. You could have done, basically, it would have been one income could, supply a whole family, right? So in that sense, that's why we gotta, you know, that's why they would put all the pressure on us, because it's like, oh, well, my parents did it, my dad did it. How come you can't do it? Well, the reason why we can't do it in today's day and age is because everything has gone up. You can't just have one income with, a family, whether it's one kid or two kids, because the cost of living has gone up, the prices have gone up in gas and groceries, etc. So that's why we got to have two incomes or more, as they said. So you're trying to tell me that we can survive off of one income? Yeah, you're right. But, like I said, you're going to have to sacrifice your time with your child and your partner, and you're going to have to sacrifice the emotionally awareness of your, partner and your child, because you're going to be too tired. You're going to be too exhausted to handle anything at home. And then if you do, then there's going to be a breaking point at a certain point in the relationship. And that's where the relationship is going to basically end. That's where divorce is going to happen, because your partner's not meeting you where you want to meet at, but your partner is doing the provider part. He's not doing the emotional part. So it's like, okay, why are you giving me that pressure? So it leads on to the identity. Okay, so if you're just being the provider, you're forgetting the identity. Who is that? Who is your partner? Who is the man? Who is your husband? Is he this person? Is he that? Is he smart? Is he, all those things that you want him to be? And if they're not, or if he's not, then what's gonna happen? Divorce is gonna happen. Why? But you told him to be the basic thing is a provider. So why are you gonna give him that pressure, right? And the next one is, who basically, are we defining ourselves? Are men defining themselves, or are we inheriting outdated roles? Meaning, so do we as a man, single man, taken man, identifying ourselves, or is our outdated, parents generation identifying us, like, oh, just like your parents, oh, you had to be the provider, you had to be the man of the house, you have to fix this, you have to fix that, you can't rely on anybody, you can't talk to your emotions to anybody. Well, in this day and age, you can't have that, because mental health is at a high, especially for men, because they put the pressure on us to do all these things, to be a provider, to be a family guy, to show up to the kids' school, sports, everything. But at the end of the day, work is going to take part of it. And then the other part is going to be that emotions. So that's where the misconception is. That's where the line has to be drawn, is like, okay, are we as an individual, meaning men, are we going to define ourselves, or is our parents going to define ourselves? Is our outdated generation going to define ourselves? So that's where we have to, like I said, stand on our 10 toes. We got to stand on what we believe in and say, no, I'm not like how my dad is. This is how I run a relationship. This is how I run myself. This is how I am. This is who I am. I'm not gonna change myself just because, my parents are outdated. So we gotta, redefine it. We gotta know what it means, and what it means is to that individual, not into the entirety, because to the entirety could be something different. So with that being said, we're done with this podcast. See you next time. This part of the podcast is a Q&A session.
Well, for the in this case, I may not have a specific question. I may have more like a story to explain a little bit, and I would like you to tell me, probably based on your experiences or what you think. Um, I'll go a little bit back, and let's say, what is to be a man a provider, starting by the dating life. Because in my experience, like I've said before, I was taught to be, the man, the provider. You gotta be there to protect. You gotta be there to pay, and everything related to what needs to be a man, right? And in this situation, yeah, I guess I'm using personal experiences that I had, which is every time I go dating. Um, in my case, I never. Well, I guess in my case, I don't do the asking first, who's gonna pay, stuff like that. I usually assume that because I'm a guy, I'm the man, I need to provide and pay, um, even if it's a date or not. So nowadays, it is too implicit, right? Like, I guess I don't know if society implicates that yes, a man has to pay, a man has to provide, but that also involves other things. I had this interesting talk with one of my colleagues, and she's older than me, so she still has the past, let's say, rules of dating. And she said, like, yeah, because you're the man, you need to ask the women out. You're the one interested. Um, you need to ask them out, for lunch, coffee, whatever, and then you need to pay. And that has to be every single time. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. Uh, because, you know, my parents taught me to be responsible, respectful, be a gentleman. But at the same time, what am I expecting in return? Um, I can provide, right? In that sense of the word. Uh, and in my mind, I guess this is me. I don't know if anyone else has this in their mind. But if I'm paying for everything, then what leaves for the other half, right? I mean, the other person in this case is like, if I'm in charge, then what is the other behalf doing, or or what can I do? Because at the same time, I don't want to be, I guess, submissive in a way that I'll do everything you ask me to do and pay for everything. But I don't also want to be a bossy, right? Like, I don't want to tell you what to do, and I will only tell you what to buy, stuff like that. So it's kind of in the sense of going 50-50, although right now society doesn't want the 50-50, right? Um, but for me, a 50-50, it doesn't involve only money or, buying stuff, going to dinner. It involves more than that, sentimental stuff, talking, relying on one another favors, stuff like that. So for me, in my mind, the 50-50 works in that way. So again, when I go dating, I have the idea of, okay, I'm the guy, I'm the man. I'm interested because I'm the one asking out. I'll pay for the first date. Um, but here's the thing, and I would like you to describe that. How many times does that happen the other way around? Because I've heard it so many times, again, from a colleague, from experience. But she has the older ways of going for dating, and her mind is like, well, the men always have to ask out and have to pay. But at the same time, I told her like, hey, well, it doesn't have to be that way. What if I like someone and she really likes me, but she has the same thinking that the man has to provide and invite and has to be the first one because it's the man. Then she doesn't ask me out. But at the same time, I don't know if she likes me, so I'm not asking because whatever reason, right? Maybe I think she's attractive, but I think she's in a relationship, or maybe she doesn't like me, or maybe I didn't see her. So that opportunity is gone. So I guess I'm going a little bit on a tangent, but again, going back, nowadays rules have changed. I don't know what you think. Do you agree with that? Is it okay? Do you think it's better to talk it beforehand just to realize if the other person is does agree with it or not? But it also involves that, as I explained before, because I think that I'm a man and I had to pay for it. Does that also mean the other part, that's in this case women, they also believe that because the man has to pay, they have to invite, they don't offer themselves, hey, I'll pay for my half, or you pay this and I'll pay it later. So I don't know. I don't have any specific question, but let me know what you think.
Okay, so basically, just to, you know, rewind all that, reiterate everything you said, your question is basically, is it okay or is it right to ask someone on a date, but yet is it okay for them to say, hey, is it o- is it okay if that you pay, or is it okay if that I pay, or is it okay if that we pay? More or less, right?
Yeah, more or less.
Okay. So basically, from my experience, from what I've heard, if the girl is interested in you, then find a way, or even, tell someone that knows her and be like, hey, do you think she likes me? And then if that person says, whoever, if it's a guy or a girl, says, yeah, she's interested in you, but she doesn't want to ask because of whatever reason, right? Whether it's, oh, she was raised that men should make the first move, right? So in that case, you already know, you've already established a baseline. So if that's what she wants, then you can already have an idea of how the relationship is going to go. But at the same time, you can also ask her after, you've already met her, after you've already talked with her for a few times, get to know her. You can ask her the question like, hey, what do you think about, the traditional roles? Do you think it's fair? Do you think it's fair for the men to pay on the first date? Or do you think it's, fair for you and me to pay for the first date? Like you pay your own and I pay your own. And if the relationship or if the vibe is there, if the feelings are there, then we can go on a second date. But then this time I'll pay because I'm really interested in you. I really like you, because you said you wanted those types of roles, so in an instant, you gotta sit down and really get to the meat and potatoes on how do you want this relationship to go after after that first date where you both paid for each other. She paid for her meal, you paid for hers. That's where the relationship roles should be talked about in that first instance. So that way, there's no assumption, there's no miscommunication, and more importantly, you already know how the relationship is going to go from then on because you've already established the base, you've already established boundaries as well because it's like, okay, this is what I expect from you, this is what I would like from you. This is how I want the relationship to be, a little bit traditional, but not too traditional because I understand that times are different. So I don't want you to be the lone provider. I'll help you out. I'll put in I'll put in my half, or I'll pay for this, I'll pay for that. Whatever you two decide, after that first relationship, first meeting, first date, first whatever you guys want to call it, whatever it's called nowadays, because we don't have a real definition because we say, "Hey, can I take you on a date?" That's already assuming that the man is going to pay for everything. But in reality, we need to find a different, definition, or we need to find a different phrase or different word to describe, "Hey, I just want to get to know you," without having to play that traditional role or having to put myself in a situation where I may not feel comfortable because I've been used a lot. I've been abused in that instant. And it's not, and I don't mean abused physically, I mean mentally abused because there'll be women out there that are like, "Oh yeah, I like you," and then they just want a free dinner, or they just want money from you, or whatever the reason is, because there's a lot of, things that are happening now. So it has that men's guard up. So it's just hard, just like how women say, "Oh, all men are the same." Well, now we can have that phrase, "All women are the same too," because all women just want a free lunch or a free dinner or a free meal, or they want us to pay for something. But it's like, no, we haven't even gotten to know each other in any level, in any we haven't even scratched the surface with each other. So with that being said, did that answer your question?
Yep.